I'm Ben Brown. Thank you for being here at the second class of the Kalamazoo Roots program. And this is Ben Bylsma. And we are going to be covering several things today.
Yeah, today with the planter, we're going to be showing you how to start harvesting produce out of it. This is the planter that I've kept at my house. This is the one that we actually planted in the first video. And after we go through harvesting, we're going to go through and show you how to add the fertilizer. You'll have received 2 bags of fertilizer when you picked up your kits initially. The smaller bag is the one that goes with this pot right here. The larger one will be for your EarthBox.
And a little bit later on, will be doing our first harvest and showing you how to harvest so that you have a longer season of plants before you need to worry about replanting. Okay, when it comes to your harvesting your greens and everything like the lettuces and the mustard, first of all, this is an exceptional pot. I also have a pot that I raise, but it's mainly compost that I use for the soil, and it's about half this size. So this is good for getting a good start and knowing what you can actually do with good organic fertilizer and soil. But my mom, when she would harvest these type of greens, she would always just chop them, and it takes a longer time for the plant to recover. If you actually go and chop the outer leaves, the biggest outer leaves near the bottom, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I will try to do that.
And then you leave the little leaves for later, right, Ben?
Right, absolutely. And the other thing, which I might bounce off of you, Ben, is I would always try to leave at least 1/3, if not 2/3, of the plant because I think it grows a little bit faster than if you chop off all the biggest leaves. I'd leave at least maybe 1 or 2 medium-sized leaves.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, we do that when pruning other plants too. That you always want to leave something for the plant to use to grow more.
And I don't know if you've discussed this with your students, Ben, but hey, it looks like someone else has all done some harvesting too. Have you done it? That's okay.
No.
No, you're innocent. Okay. So I'm going to take one more from here. But the other neat thing about greens like mustard greens, turnip greens, any of these dark leafy greens, is they can actually help you reduce your blood pressure and make it a little bit easier if you are on insulin, those type of things. And so giving it a haircut. And if, say, for instance, you don't have enough to feed your entire family, a plate of greens, you can always mix these. I'm doing some of the lettuce. You can always mix these in different things. Like if I was cooking pasta or rice, I would kind of chop these and maybe stir fry them lightly with some garlic and cumin and different spices like that, whatever spices you're most comfortable with.
So rather than having a whole dish of just greens, you would have a different green that you're just using greens as a supplement to it.
Right, and so it's adding nutrition, but it's also stretching it out so that more. Love this. And these are tender. When they're this size, they're fantastic. Okay, I'm going to trim, let's maybe 1 or 2 more leaves off. Ben, I have a question. Like, if you were to see aphids on a leaf, I know there's several things that I would do, like even spray the plant with water, but there's other ways to handle aphids and such. What would you do?
What we do in a lot of our spaces where we don't want to be spraying stuff is we'll harvest it and then wash it really well, because you can wash off the dirt and the aphids and other bugs as well. Sometimes letting it soak under water, they'll drown. But the aphids won't go away on their own, they only get worse.
Yes. So definitely, if you have an infected leaf or infested leaf, it would be good to take that away, like you say.
And you could either eat it, or you could compost it, or just throw it out in the yard someplace and let the ladybugs and other creatures eat the aphids.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Ben, we're getting ready to fertilize the pot, and isn't that a mix of organic materials like kelp and different things like that?
It is. It has some bone meal and feather meal, byproducts from the meat industry, but that have all been composted and treated so that they don't carry any pathogens that would be harmful to us. That still being said, it does have a little bit of a smell, so you might want to wear some gloves or use a spoon when you start dealing with it, or just wash your hands really thoroughly afterwards. That's what I'm planning on doing. The reason we harvest it first is because anything that has a smell can affect the flavor of things. So at this point, we've harvested what we want out at this point, and we're gonna apply the fertilizer, get it mixed in, get it watered in, and then in a couple days when we're ready to harvest again, the dust will have had a chance to wash off and settle down, and our produce will be clean again.
Excellent.
I'm gonna set this flat so that's easier for us to put it in. So I'm gonna use my hands to do this.
And I'm not going to shake your hands afterwards.
Yeah, it's good to wash your hands afterwards. And I'm just going to take some pinches of it like this, like effectively maybe a half tablespoon or so. And I'm just sprinkling, I'm going down between the plants. I'm not sprinkling it over top like I'm putting fancy stuff on a fancy dish.
Right.
I'm trying to get it all the way down to the soil because plants will absorb these nutrients through their roots, not through their leaves. So there's no point in fertilizing the leafy part of it. Thanks, Ben.
And also the other thing, it won't wash up on the leaves as easily if you sprinkle it on top. It's more likely to have residue on the leaves.
Yeah, and I just accidentally put some on a leaf, and because it's so dry right now, everything's dry. I just shook the leaf and shook the fertilizer off.
Hey, I see the radishes. That looks encouraging.
Yeah, they're all coming up.
The seeds that you planted should now be up. My radishes are finally up.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's always fun to see new seeds come up. Let's see. All right, I've gotten a nice kind of light coating all over it. So we didn't use all the fertilizer. You can see we just wanted a kind of a coating all around it. I'm going to go through now and just kind of scratch up the surface a little bit to get it to kind of mix into the top layer of soil. You can see my little seedlings here.
Could you use a fork, like a plastic fork or
Yeah,
something?
a plastic fork might work.
You're not digging them up.
No, we don't want, that's right, we don't want to dig down because we don't want to disturb the plant roots. We just want to kind of get it mixed in with the top layer of soil. And so you can it's kind of fun to just feel around the base of the plants too. So I got it mixed in there. So I got my watering can now, and I want to do just a nice light coating. My goal is to get the soil to kind of bind to the fertilizer, to fill in around it, so that later, maybe when we get a heavy rain or something like that, it's not going to splash the fertilizer up onto the leafy greens. Not that there's any hazard with that, but based on the smell of fertilizer, I wouldn't want to eat it, would you?
Yeah, like you were saying, that there is a little bit of, and it could flavor your food ever so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool.
Hey Ben, I think we're ready to do the EarthBox. I'm excited.
You see the branding on it?
Cool.
EarthBox.
And there's lots of cool things inside that we're gonna put
Gotta
together.
And we got to take out before you fill it up with dirt because it's a lot harder to get out afterwards. So take this out first.
Okay, so it came with really neat directions, but we're going to demonstrate what we're set up to do.
Yep, we had the plastic covers were packed inside the tube here. There's a hole here on the side that the tube slides in, and that's how you're going to water it later on to give an easy access spot there. You want to pull it out a second, Ben?
Yeah, there we go. So there we go, and there's a hole that just slides right in. In a perfect world, it slides right in. In the world I live in.
Let's go for it. There we go.
There you go. And this should kind of sit in there securely. You missed. Right.
All right. So where do you want this to go, Ben?
Let's move it to the center, but we're going to pack the corners, and we're going to fill it to about 2 inches from the top before we do a lot of things.
Do you want to pack the corners in that?
Yes. Oh gosh, this looks wonderful. And that will help.
I think that's where it wicks it up, right?
Yep, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth, Ben. I like working with you. Woo. So this is a mix of peat moss and maybe perlite, or is that, yeah, perlite. Or is it vermiculite?
There's both perlite and vermiculite. There's also sand, compost with kelp,
good.
Rock phosphate, rock minerals, fish meal, and crab meal.
Super. Now, you know kelp, I was told when I was going to one of the classes I went 2 years ago that kelp also acts as a good immune booster for plants.
Well, I'm glad we will have healthy plants. All right, so we're filling it up to 2 inches from the top, and that's where we're going to pause for a second.
Ben, this has been a little dry, so it's like
It reminds me of the pots that we watered last month.
yeah. And again, I think it should be at least as moist as kind of a damp sponge, but this was more like a really dry sponge. So we're going to let this soak in, or we're going to get our hands down and dirty.
Which would you prefer?
In a perfect world, getting it down and dirty.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Because the other thing about peat moss is it will hold moisture once it's wet, but before it gets there, it takes a while for the liquid, the water to soak through. And again, you don't want to have this pipe come up. You want to keep it, because that will let you know eventually you'll be able to look in the pipe and see where the water line is. And I'm beginning to see a drip at the very bottom here. I'd like to tell you this is like a skin treatment. It's good for your hands, but it actually will dry your hands out a little bit, so you'll want to use some skin cream. Thank you. So I also have to confess, I'm not mixing it absolutely thoroughly, but this will get us started. And again, it will eventually moisten all of the soil, but it just takes a bit for peat moss. Okay, so I've mixed it well, and I'm going to kind of rinse my hands off, which won't hurt the soil at all. And then I also have a fingernail brush at home, but thank you, Ben.
We have one here too that you can use.
Good.
All right, so the next step is adding the lime. You have a 1 pound bag of lime that you should have received. It's bigger than the one that came with the planter because this holds quite a bit more soil than the planter. And the instructions say to do a nice even coat all the way over the surface of this. I don't know if the best way to do it, I feel almost like putting it in my hand would be better than...
Yeah. Yeah, you can have more control in terms of sprinkling it, yes. And you'll definitely want to wash your hands because lime can give you skin burns. And there are other sources of lime, like in my particular garden, I use eggshells. Eggshells are high in calcium. Lime also has calcium as well. And there's some other benefits to using lime as well. I'm going to wash your hands off.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
One good turn deserves another.
All right. Cool.
Oops. So good, you're going to mix this in.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep, and because I don't...
You could have used your hands.
I could have, but you convinced me that wasn't a good idea as well. So my hands are nice and clean now, so I'm going to use this tool now to incorporate it or mix it just into the top layer of the soil here. Eventually it will dissolve with the watering and it'll be washed down, so you don't have to mix it all the way to the bottom.
And lime helps to buffer the soil, right? So it's not too acidic or not too alkaline. Well,
it mostly reacts with the acidity, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's calcium, so it absorbs acids. All right, so we have it mixed in like that. We can tip it, it'll show where we're at.
Yep. And we can add more soil and then more lime, eh?
That was all the lime.
That was all the lime. Well, then we're just going to mix this in, and it will, I like that. That way the plants won't always be directly in there against that.
Cool, how high do you want to go with this, Ben?
Well,
Maybe all the way up to the lip?
I think that's a good idea because it is still going to settle down.
Yeah.
My parents often wished I would settle down, but
So,
do we still have a little more in the bag?
yeah, we got more soil.
And all the time that this pipe is staying down at the bottom because that's going to let you view when it needs water and all of that. Because
A little bit more?
I think we need a little more in there. Good to the last drop. Or is that before your time? Good to the last drop?
It's familiar. Coffee?
Yes. Oh, good. You pass.
Snow is the best part of waking up, though.
That's Mrs. Folger.
All right.
All these important things you're learning about gardening.
There you go.
I think that's going to work perfect because we have soil moisture already in the soil, and then just a little bit on top.
All right.
Okay, we're ready to look at planting. I would give it a little bit to set, wouldn't you, though?
Yeah.
Okay, we have this all set. Ben has set this up wonderfully.
Should we plant all of those plants, Ben?
I say yes, but not really, because this is really set up for about three large plants. And so you'll have extra, and you can they can put them in their garden or they can give them away, right? And if you give them to like your mother-in-law or something, and she has extra tomatoes, then you can go over and raid her garden as well. I like that idea. But we're going to put in 3 plants, and again, when you take a plant out, you don't want to like squeeze the stem till it like screams at you. But when you pull out the plants, if they're really mature and they have like a really tight root ball like this, what would you do with this?
I would just massage it a little bit.
And kind of loosen it up?
Loosen it up.
So that it can actually, the roots can spread out, because otherwise they'll just circle around and kind of suffocate themselves. And when you put it in, you'll want to put it in at least level with the cell.
Yeah, tomatoes are a little strange in the fact that you can bury them a little deeper, but almost
That's
everything
right.
else, you want to just
Actually,
do that deep.
We could do like this, couldn't we?
You could. I would say let's just make it a little deeper
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, because it will grow roots. All tomatoes are unique in that they will grow roots along their stems. That was a good call, Ben. Poor little tomato.
Should we put the cucumber in the middle so it can later grow out and sprawl out?
That sounds almost artistic. Hey, I'll give you the chance there, the honor. Cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce. That sounds awfully familiar to me.
If only we had some bacon lying around.
Oh, no. For vegan, I don't know about the bacon part. But yeah,
What would you eat with it?
bacon.
I'm gonna take these little dead leaves off the bottom. All right. All right, and I'm trying to get the soil to match the top of the plug, because I don't want it to cause the stem to rot later on. Do you want to do a pepper or a tomato next?
Let's see. Well, I think we don't have any peppers, but I think we should maybe put in a pepper.
Yeah, this one has 2 in it. What would you do with the other one?
I would actually, well, you know what? If they're this close together, I'm worried about hurting the branch. I'd almost be tempted to pinch it off.
That's what I would do too.
Yeah. I don't like that idea, but it seems like a waste. But otherwise, the plant won't grow as well because it will kind of starve the other one. So put this in.
I found actually that if I put more plants in the same amount of space, I don't end up with getting more food out of it because the plants spend so much time competing with each other, they don't actually generate more produce. So,
Okay.
cool. So we got 3 large plants.
And we have 3, are these collards?
Those are collards. You won't be receiving collards with you. This is from a different program we have that's ready 2 weeks early.
So otherwise, what else could we put in here? We could
could
put in radishes or something like
Some
that?
radishes or beets. You could
Beans?
beans. Oh yeah, we have green bean seeds here. You could also plant other things like maybe a basil plant if you want to buy one of those from the area farmer's market or some other garden center. You'll be receiving a packet of bean seeds with it. So they're purple beans, but they form a green bean pod as you go. So how far apart do you want to put them, Ben?
I would put these about 4 inches apart.
4 inches apart. So
In a row. Yeah, you're already doing it. That's excellent. The other thing I was going to say, if you were to put basil next to your tomato, you're familiar with companion planting, right? I have noticed that will actually improve the flavor of both the tomato and also the basil. And the other thing is, I like your tip from last week or 2 weeks ago about putting it down about at least a fingernail in depth.
yeah.
So that was pretty. I tried to teach one of my friends the other day that, and they weren't convinced that was working. So all the seeds they planted are still on the surface, but so far the birds haven't eaten them.
Good.
So there we go. Would we water this in? Or it's already been watered?
It's been watered. I might give it a little more just because we done this so fast. The surface is still a little dry. Because, yeah.
And the rosette watering cans have different rosettes, and I actually have one that has a fine mist, so it makes it a little bit easier to disperse the moisture on top. But that looks pretty good to me. And that is, yours will look at least this good. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have this all planted now. It seems like the plants still might be looking for a drink of water, or at least have the reservoir filled.
Yeah, the big selling point of the EarthBox is that it has a reservoir underneath that inner cover that can hold water, and then it has those columns of soil that go down at the two corners to wick that moisture up, so you don't have to water it quite as often. I can tell by looking down the tube here that there's no water in the tube, so I'm just going to take this.
And again, be careful not to pull the tube up or out.
Yeah, you could do this with a garden hose if you had a very delicate hand with it. So let's see, I've put in about half the watering can. I can see some water at the bottom, but it's definitely not, whoops, sorry Ben.
Okay. I'm afraid I'm going to be using water soon anyway.
Alright, so we've put maybe a gallon in so far. I think I want some more.
Again, we don't want to drown this.
Yeah, and that is one disadvantage to this as well though, is that once the water is in there, there's no drain hole on the bottom for excess water to go out. So I'm going to pour a little more water here on the surface as well.
And we also have water in the lower layer of soil, pretty much. But together, that will help everything. And once it reaches equilibrium, I'm trying to think how to explain that. But once the water is evenly distributed, then using this water pipe will be really handy. And again, you don't need to fill the water pipe all the way up, but at least a couple of inches, wouldn't you say, Ben?
Yeah, you want to have 2 or 3 inches in the bottom there.
Good, well we're all set up here, and you don't have to really worry too much about overfilling it with water after all, because there is an overflow drain in the middle, and so the directions that we're giving are a little bit different than the ones in the pamphlet that they gave you. So you'll want to follow the video as much as possible there.
This soil has fertilizer already mixed in with in particular, so you don't have to add any fertilizer at this point. That's going to be in about a month, just like we waited a month to fertilize the 7-gallon pot we gave you as well. So, great, thank you.
You're set up for success.